And I thank you, everybody, for being here. And today I called this in response to a letter I sent to the governor this morning. And let me start by saying I'm mad. I am extremely mad because of hearing what happened in our community. We heard about the kidnapping and the murder that should have never been taking place. And first of all, let me express my condolences and feel for the family of the victim, Janice Zengotita-Torres. It must be tough that they just came here to Florida to start a new life, like many Puerto Ricans did. And less than a month being here, she meets her demise so tragically. So our hearts go to her. She was a mother, she was a wife, she was a daughter. She came here to work, and she was taken away in the parking lot coming off of work. She did not deserve this. Nobody deserved this. And that's one of the reasons why I'm mad. I'm mad because this could have happened to any of us. And unfortunately, it happened to the family, to her and her family. So why did I send this letter to the governor today? As you all know, since last year, March 15th of last year, State Attorney Ayala made a statement that she would not pursue any death penalty cases. We asked the governor back then to reassign, which he promptly did, and reassigned over 30 cases, and then was taken to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court ruled in the governor's favor, saying that he was correct, that she did not have that authority to do so. After that, she created this death penalty review panel that has been reviewing cases. However, the first case she reviewed, she missed a 45-day deadline, botched that one. I've been critical about that. And instead of moving forward with a death penalty case on that, they pled that case out for life in prison. So the death penalty was really never on the table on that one. And then we've seen the last case that is currently moving forward. She has a pattern of taking cases and reducing the penalties immediately. We saw a case where she moved it from first-degree murder to second-degree murder, a case that was in Osceola that was from a Brevard case. And so my concern is that this was an extreme case. The case involved folks that came from Puerto Rico. It was a murder-for-hire plot. Folks came from Puerto Rico here to commit a crime, and the crime they did commit. But they messed up who the intended victim was. And they took somebody, and even after they found out that wasn't the person they were intended for, they still punished her. They beat her senseless, and then they killed her. And then they dumped the body in Volusia County and then used her credit card. So to me, we have at least 3 aggregating factors in Statute 921-141 that are being seen here. Section 6, D, the capital felony was committed while the defendant was engaged or was an accomplice in the commission of an off or an attempt to commit or flight after committing or attempting to commit any robbery, sexual battery, aggravated child abuse, abuse of an elderly person or disabled adult resulting in great bodily harm, permanent disability or permanent disfigurement, arson, burglary, kidnapping. So we have the kidnapping in Section D. Then we move on to H. The capital felony was especially heinous, atrocious, or cruel. And that part was when they took her to the apartment in the Millennium Mall area. When they found out that she was not intended victim, they still beat her and killed her. And then I. The capital felony was a homicide and was committed in a cold, calculated, and premeditated manner without any pretense of moral or legal justification. This was a murder-for-hire plot that sought it. And they had every time, every opportunity to back away from it, especially when they found out that this was not the intended victim, and they didn't. And even if it was the intended victim, I still say, there is no place in our society for this. So the message here is very clear. To the 3, Lopez Ramos, Alexis Ramos, and Quinones Montes, that we here in Florida do not take this type of crime lightly, or any crime. And we look and seek to prosecute to the fullest extent of the law. And what I mean by the fullest extent is everything that we've set up here in the legislature in statute. that the state attorney must follow. Unfortunately, our state attorney has seen in the past that she's not interested in following our laws, only the ones that she sees fit. Now, she made a comment earlier today that this already has been resolved, that the death penalty review panel is the one that recommends and that will take this case and recommend whether it should go forward or not. True, possibly, but she ultimately decides. And as we've seen, she has and will plead down some cases. Now, the suspects have already confessed. It's going to be seen whether they're going to get retained attorney, counsel and move forward. Now, is she going to offer plea bargains even before we're talking any death penalty things here? That is why of my concern that this should be transferred to a different state attorney for review. And the other reason is this case transcends jurisdictions. If it is true that this plot started in Puerto Rico, then you have the Puerto Rico jurisdiction. Then it came across the ocean to Florida, where they executed the kidnapping, which happened in Osceola. And then the murder happened in Orange, and then they dumped the body in Volusia. So right now you have two jurisdictions of the district attorneys, the 9th and the 18th, that are involved here also. So it's a very complicated case, and I'll close with this. But 300,000 Puerto Ricans have moved to Florida since the storm, since October 3rd that we've been tracking. And they're good people. These are good people that fled the island looking for a better life here and have been assimilating into our state. We've helped them with issues on education. We've helped them with issues of jobs. We're looking for solutions for housing and everything else. And that is true. But for those that are moving here with criminal intent, like these three, we want to send a swift message. Florida does not play around. In Florida, if you do the crime, we will prosecute you to the fullest extent of the law. And I'll close finally. In Puerto Rico, there has been, in the first 14 days of the year, 43 murders. 43 murders in the first 14 days. That tells me there's a crime problem over there. We don't have that type of problem here. We do have crime, we do have murders, but not to that extent. But the point is, we will treat every criminal. We will give them their fair shake through the judicial system, but at the end of the day, the idea is that we will prosecute to the fullest extent of the law. And that's the plan on this. I'll open up for questions. Thank you very much.
Representative, given all the concerns and the letters and going back to last year over this whole issue, I might have missed it, but I haven't seen any legislation filed by you or anyone else that would seek to, prescribe what would have to take place. Would state attorneys still allow their autonomy, but sort of, require them to at least consider it only in certain instances? Why not file any of those?
And it's a great question. And first of all, we've seen how the prosecutorial discretion that they have through the Constitution. And it's a constitutional issue. So I've asked both the Judiciary Committee and anything that we can do, and it's a very fine line, obviously. So it's hard legislation to pass when there's a protection to the Constitution. Now, that being said, all the other state attorneys throughout the state do their job. They follow the law and they prosecute accordingly. They use their prosecutorial discretion as it's intended by the Constitution. This only affects one state attorney. So why, if I file any legislation that would affect all of them, all 20 judicial systems, it punish them for something that they're not doing, only on the one. So that's one of the reasons why I opted not to do any legislation.
You sort of mentioned a little bit, but with so many Puerto Ricans coming to Florida, Puerto Rico doesn't have the death penalty again. It hasn't since 1929.
That's correct.
Like,
It has in federal cases, but not in local cases, correct.
So do you think that that's a deterrent, or could be a deterrent, if more Puerto Rican people that are coming here would know that about Florida?
Yes, and not only just the death penalty, the fact that we are willing and able to prosecute cases to the fullest extent. Death penalty being one, robbery, drugs, everything else, and then the punishments are severe. Puerto Rico does prosecute people and has overcrowding in their jails. I mean, I've seen it, but many people get away with stuff over there. Here, they're not going to get away with it.
You don't think your action is premature right now? You don't buy or claim that this will go through the death penalty review panel?
It will go to the death penalty review panel. Right now, I've reached out to Attorney General Pam Bondi for some information. She's not here right now, so I'll wait to hear back soon. Because of the multi-jurisdictional issue, there's a possibility that the state might want to get involved in this particular case, and there's even a possibility that the feds might want to get involved in this because there is some issues on the federal issue, and even to the extent Puerto Rico government might want to even get involved, and so these folks can be potentially charged in many jurisdictions. So to me, I'm not jumping the gun. I think the importance of this case and the uniqueness of it deserves the utmost attention. No, not at this time. The last thing I heard that he had his counsel reviewing my request. No, I've not heard from the victim's family. I did see that there was a release earlier today that they asked to respect the privacy, but one comment that they said was that they do, once everything's said and done, they start talking to the media, they want justice to be served completely and absolutely. So along this, what I've been saying is what the family's saying. They're upset. They are definitely upset for all the right reasons, and they want this case to be given utmost importance, but yet also be tried completely with no cutting corners.
Can I just get you to clarify what you said about the resolution of the case last year and the panel that State Attorney Ayala has set up? Is it your opinion that the death penalty as a potential penalty, is that in fact in force in Orange and Osceola counties right now, in your opinion?
That is, I'm sorry, what was that, Gray?
Does it exist as an option?
Yes, absolutely. With the death penalty.
In fact, is what I'm saying. I mean, the way that she applies the law. Do you think that? Could you just clarify what the panel, I think, does? I mean, is your opinion that she uses that to not go after cases
I think she.
Not an actual penalty?
I think she uses that to justify to the Supreme Court that she is following the law. That is her justification, because she could have put that review panel before she took the state to court, and the review and the Supreme Court ruled against her. I mean, she had every opportunity. So why, after the Supreme Court did the ruling, now it's the review panel, which is reviewing these cases on the case-by-case basis and making the recommendation. By the way, the recommendation has to be unanimous on all 7 members of this panel, which, it's something that she can determine, or she can have her office determine, but it's got to go through this review panel. And then even after review panel makes the recommendation, she can bring forward the recommendation, which she has, but she can still use her prosecutorial discretion to say, I'm just going to settle this case and move for life imprisonment.
I know last year you had asked the governor to remove her from office, and he obviously hasn't done that.
Right.
Given the fact that that's the case now, and according to you that she's still not following the law in truth, as far as actually considering this an option, have you considered renewing your request to the governor's office? What have they said back to you on that?
My request has always been standing to the governor to remove her. The governor, for his own reason, has not exercised that. Many people agree with me, says that she is not, she's a dereliction of duty and should be removed. It's not a decision for me to make. That's the governor's decision.
Have you or anyone talked about possibly challenging that review panel as not an application of her responsibility as a state attorney?
I have not. I have not personally, and I don't know. I haven't heard of anybody else challenging the review panel. No. And I make it clear. My beef is not against the review panel itself. Is after what happens after the review panel makes a determination, she still controls everything in there, and she can say, okay, the review panel said death penalty, let's move forward, and a month later said, I'm giving you life in prison because I really don't care for I really didn't care for the death penalty anyway.
Am I correct that she has followed the guidance of that review panel every time so far?
Yes, the two that's moved forward, yes, she's followed the guidance, correct. One, there's no 45-day case window, she moved, and they quickly settled life in prison, so it never went to a death penalty. So in theory, she didn't follow the recommendation because they did a settlement to give them life in prison. Okay, thank you very much, guys.